What's up, Capital Wastelanders? It is time for our great president to finally fulfill his mission to annex the Capital Wasteland under the banner of the Republic of Dave. Dave is a man who requires no introduction, but I'll give him one anyway. Hailing from the Republic of Dave in the far northeast of the Capital Wasteland, this former mercenary-turned-president governs a modest but fortified area. As one of the few bastions of civilization, the time to act is now. The time to restore and rebuild is upon us. And having just shown our special allocation and tagged skills, it seems that we're good at running characters with high physical stats with a bit below average in intelligence and charisma. Well, that's not going to be much of an issue for us, since the intelligence bobblehead located at Dr. Lee's lab will bump ours up to 4. That's important because educated is just a great perk in general. And before we continue, if you're new here, first off, hello, love to have you along for our journey. Just know that here on this channel, for any Fallout 3 run, speaking of bobbleheads, viewers have voted for the added stipulation of us having to acquire the bobbleheads of our tagged skills. Now, we seem to pay the National Guard Depot a visit frequently here on this channel, so I might just gloss over that a bit in favor of our sneak bobblehead. Thanks to this, which is a great skill to tag anyway, we'll have to venture into the dreaded Yaguai tunnels. Now, I haven't been there in a while, but I do remember it well. I'd say fondly, but is it really a fond memory when it pertains to a cave of pure nightmare fuel? Explosives as a tag skill doesn't do much for us, since President Dave doesn't have explosives in his inventory. Gear's on screen now, but having it tagged does mean that we can immediately complete what I personally consider to be Megaton's central quest, as dealing with the bomb ultimately decides the fate of this particular settlement. Now, I like to think that President Dave has no interest in detonating the bomb, instead simply offering to further protect Megaton in exchange for annexation. It's not gonna do his mission much good if Megaton goes up in smoke, right? Inspired by our glorious president's vision of a united Capital Wasteland, Lucas Sims will agree and gets to maintain his role as sheriff of the town. Maybe when this is all said and done, he can become governor of Megaton. And yeah, gotta say, rocking the Chinese AR definitely instills confidence, being that it's an excellent weapon all around, especially in the early to mid game. Now, if we want to get old painless, we can, but I'm not gonna start with it. Hunting rifles are way better in FNV, but it might still be worth grabbing just for the sake of weapon variety. Not sure yet, we'll see. Dave's Merc Adventure outfit is pretty good here in Fallout 3, boasting a 12 DR, as well as providing a small bonus to melee, which we're not using at all in this run, and small guns. I'd say let's set the scene, but we've already started, so time for a masterfully timed segue into continuing. Dave received a mysterious visitor, a young individual donned in a blue jumpsuit with 101 on the back. They had the look of a naive, sheltered person who was utterly defeated by the horrors of the Capital Wasteland. Having been brought in by one of his children, this lone wanderer was offered asylum in exchange for performing menial tasks around the Republic. That's right, for once in one of these stories, I'm not just offing the lone wanderer. Tells the Vault 101 interested the president, if weirding him out a little bit. But it's the arrival of this visitor that sparked the desire for Dave to make his dream a reality. With election season over and with 4 more years of Dave, he took it upon himself to show the Wasteland that he truly is the best choice for their future. Makes you wonder what would happen if he found Union Station. Wink wink. Dave's quest to bring the Capital Wasteland under his banner will surely result in him meeting with other major powers who will either need to swear allegiance to the Republic, for which President Dave stands, or suffer the consequences. And as you can see, we're not quite done helping Megaton yet. President Dave did offer to extend his protection to this settlement, and that means helping out Moira Brown just a little bit by investigating the Super Duper Mart, procuring its supplies, and taking out the raiders within. Now, as Dave does have actual combat experience, I imagine that this is little more than just exercise. Just gotta get the blood flowing again, get back into the spirit of things. And gotta say, quite the yield in loot here as well. You saw those 2 stealth boys we got in that random ammo container. Yeah, I went wide-eyed when I saw that, because sometimes I'll get 1. Getting 2 in 1? Well, that's quite the treat now, isn't it? Now, another benefit of coming here is that we can start hoarding energy weapons. Now, once we make our way to Fort Independence, which is, again, if you're new, we almost always do that in these runs. Typically, I'll trade in energy weapons or power armor for stim packs, but using a character with the 556 weapon, yeah, Caston's gonna be our main ammo distributor in this run. I can feel that in my bones. And speaking of weapons, again, the Chinese AR is awesome in the early game, so these raiders really aren't putting up much of a fight. So while we clean house here, what we're gonna do is we're gonna make our way to Smith Casey's garage. For the first time in what feels like forever, we're not gonna bother with doing the 3-dog route because I don't feel like that's part of Dave's whole shtick, because the DC ruins, well, they're gonna have to come later. I will say that I am surprised that the Raider took out the Protectron that we got out of the little capsule. It's very rare that that happens, and I do appreciate the scrap metal. And speaking of Smith Casey's garage, obligatory mention of Vault 112 and Tranquility Lane. Well, this ought to be an educational experience for our president. He gets to see the soldiers who wielded the weapon he now wields, where that comes from. And you know, being a man in power, you gotta make the hard decisions, and it's either this or going along with Dr. Betty's little fantasy of just torturing people, and that's not what our president's all about. The Vault Dwellers of 112 are finally able to rest in peace, and President Dave leaves Dr. Betty to stew in his anger for the rest of time. Now, as we make our way on over to Jefferson Memorial, we actually haven't gotten the quest from James just yet. We've gone on ahead of him. And I had actually forgotten that if you refuse, James and the scientists will just head on over anyway, and that's going to come into play here in just a sec. And what was interesting about the Rotunda here is typically there's a super mutant brute. I did see a centaur in one of my earlier runs, I forget which one. But I've not seen just 2 standard super mutants in the Rotunda, as there's typically a brute here. But there is a brute in the basement, so let's go ahead and take him down. Actually, hold that thought. We're gonna go out, restock our ammunition by waiting a couple of days for inventory to restock with the vendors. And then we'll come back. Now, taking out the super mutants early here in Jefferson Memorial, especially with a weapon like the Chinese AR, makes this a pretty smooth process. The standard super mutants aren't much to write home about, and I suspect that will be the case going forward in this run. And the super mutant brutes are a bit tanky. Super mutants at lower level tend to have poor weapons like nail boards. Once in a while they'll have a hunting rifle. And it seems that this one brought a plank of wood to a gunfight, and that turned out real well for it. The super mutant brute wields a sledgehammer, which doesn't do too much damage to us. If this were the Merc Adventure outfit from New Vegas, we'd take quite a bit more damage. It's good to know that we can be stylish and effective in Fallout 3, loving it. So as we finish clearing out the interior of Jefferson Memorial, I gotta show you something. You are not ready for this. Because President Dave didn't escort James there, although they will be joining forces here shortly, Dave is watching Madison Lee fistfight a super mutant. I'm sorry, we can't arm her in Taft Tunnel because... Anyway, let's go ahead and hit up the National Guard Armory. And I gotta say, it was pretty uneventful because normally we battle a sentry bot in that locked door, but it was a Mr. Gutsy this time. I'm guessing that's because of our level. I mean, we did get a level up here, so that was pretty cool. For the most part, it was just low-level Protectrons, lower-grade Mark turrets. It is always cool to come here because, man, when you clear out the dungeon and get to this room coming up, oh, there's just loot galore, and it is glorious. Such a well-designed area. I'd show more, but honestly, that Mr. Gutsy was the hardest thing we fought in here. On the flip side, our next destination, as I said at the start, we're going to be covering in full detail because we have not yet gone to the Agawai Caves. And yeah, there's our small guns bobblehead. That's 1 of 3 down, so... Now, before we go spelunking, there's just a place here in the Capital Wasteland that we have to completely expunge. Paradise Falls will not be operating under Dave's annexed Capital Wasteland. And while we prep up and attack the first couple of guys outside, gotta say that while the perks in Fallout 3 might fall a bit flat compared to the other games, gotta say for these challenge runs, they're pretty awesome. A flat +5 to, say, science and medicine if you take Daddy's Boy, Daddy's Girl might not be as interesting as some of the ones in New Vegas or in the earlier games, but it helps out so much. And by taking out Grouse, we can loot the Mesmetron and the power cells that go with it. But we're going to stow that away for safekeeping because we don't want a weapon like that here in our Republic of Dave Wasteland in the making. And as we make our way to the front door, we're going to encounter 40 here, and, well, he's quite off guard. Now that's what I call ordering a case of 40s. Now the interior might prove to be a bit challenging because the Chinese arrow is a great weapon, but it's not great for long-range combat, so the strategy here is going to be to pick off one or two of them outside and then bring them inside. Well, that was the plan, however, they don't seem to follow us inside of the barracks. I have no idea why they won't give chase. And kind of a funny moment here, my stealth boy drops and I didn't realize it, so when I go back outside, they're all like, yo, what up? And I'm like, uh-oh, hang on a second. Backtrack inside, reactivate the stealth boy, which takes us out of combat. And I accidentally cash in on level 8, so that's cool. Another thing I like about Fallout 3 is perks every level. That's sweet. The slaver with the minigun is the one we really want to watch out for, because although our Merc Adventure outfit is way better than the one in Fallout New Vegas, it is still light armor, and the miniguns tear through light armor targets like a knife through butter. So periodically backtracking into one of the buildings is the best strategy, and again, they don't seem to go into the slaver barracks for some reason. And as if the game heard my inquiry, in comes Clover, which is interesting because there's plenty of more guys outside, but I guess they just sent her in to 1v1 us. She's a heck of a lot more durable than the slavers outside. Still though, she's no match for our mighty president, and as we exit the barracks, turns out that Carolina Red, despite having backup, is also unable to withstand the president's onslaught. Now, normally when we go after Paradise Falls, the last person I kill here is Pronto, but we're gonna change things up a little bit today. Taking notice of a store, the president sees an opportunity here. In addition to taking out these slavers at Paradise Falls, which makes him look good, Pronto's stash here can certainly be contributed to the Republic's coffers. Pronto and his little bodyguard go down super fast. And I gotta tell you, one thing I really love about Fallout 3 is that when you take out a vendor, like Pronto here in this case, you get access to a key, and you can loot their entire stash. That's always a fun little trick, is to sell something to a merchant, and if you want to get your stuff back, just pop them or steal their key. Open up your stash and you get your stuff back. I may or may not have tested that extensively on Grandma Sparkle over the years. And with the minigun slaver down, they're pretty much easy pickings. Jotun and Ymir might have heavy metal armor, but they're no match for a Chinese AR because, I mean, again, they're bringing a giant hammer, powerful though it may be, to a gunfight. Eulogy Jones really didn't send his best after us. I think he has to work on his payroll a bit more. Well, I say that, but he's not going to have to worry about that here much longer. As we finish cleaning out the trash outside of Paradise Falls, we're going to head inside and start looting Eulogy's pad. Now, here there's a bunch of Nuka-Cola Quantum, which is great if you're doing the quest at Girder Shade, and you don't want to make a stop to that Nuka plant. And once we make a break back towards the entrance, Eulogy Jones is going to come down, investigate, see what's going on, and his brazen bravado will be rewarded with the classic Swiss cheese treatment. Now, one great thing about coming to Paradise Falls is that the speech bobblehead is located here. That's cool, and while it's not a tagged skill for us, it's always nice to have. I always love collecting these things. Now, we may have taken down Eulogy Jones, but we're not quite done here in Paradise Falls. We've already freed the kids and the other slaves. But there's still one more person operating here whom we have to take out. And it turns out that's another vendor. That's good old Cutter, the doctor, medic, whatever, here at Paradise Falls, and because it's just her, yeah, easy peasy, easy pickings. And we get ourselves a nice healthy dose of chems as well as medical supplies, though we're not going to bother with stuff like the medical brace, scalpel scissors, or surgical tubing. Now, I did say before that the Lone Wanderer is alive and well in this alternate universe, so before we go spelunking, one more trip, and this time it's down memory lane. After being granted asylum, the Lone Wanderer was granted the privilege of being able to help out with the election that took place before President Dave's adventure kicked off. All they had to do was go notify anyone who was eligible to vote here in the Republic to go ahead and cast their vote inside of the ballot box. Thanks to President Dave's immense generosity, the Lone Wanderer has found themselves with a new home. And, I mean, after being just left to die, basically, in Vault 101 because James couldn't be bothered to tell his kid where he's going, the Lone Wanderer just hopes that their dad's doing well, but is also pretty miffed about that whole thing. So, what better place to be than the second safest place in the entire wasteland? Second, soon to be first, just give it time. the Lone Wanderer would have learned about the electoral process back in the pre-war era, and gets to bear witness to it for the first time. The president returns home to rest, resupply, all that good stuff, and it's time that he goes to his safe and takes out the trusty Old Painless. Because if we're going to the Yao Guai tunnels, then we're going to need all the firepower that we can get. Everything that you saw before was a series of appetizers before the main course. Taking up his trusty hunting rifle, President Dave is looking to increase his fame and reputation by clearing out one of the most dangerous locations in all of the Capital Wasteland. Election season just ended, and he's already looking to bolster his image for his next term. Man, I haven't been inside the Yao Guai tunnel since the first time I played through Tale of Two Wastelands, which would have been about 3 years ago now. I was actually kinda worried because one of the mods I used, and that mod and all other mods are always in my description. The Wasteland's lighting is kind of realistic in the regard that nighttime and dark areas are dark, so I thought the Yao Guai tunnels would be darker than this. Thankfully, that's not the case. I had forgotten that it's relatively well illuminated as far as caves go, and I'm glad that's the case because these Yao Guai are no joke. In fact, I'm not even confident that our Chinese assault rifle's ammo is gonna last us the entire time. I had actually originally planned to get Old Painless after getting the bobbleheads, but I was out exploring and I was like, you know what, we're closing in on the Republic of Dame. I'm at Canterbury Commons, it's not that much farther north, so let's just go grab it. And judging by how much ammo it takes for us to take down a single Yao Guai, that's probably a good thing that I did that. Now, in addition to the sneak bobblehead, we can get a ton of Yao Guai meat here, which is going to be awesome. 10% damage increase, and it stacks with Psycho. Yes, sir. May I have another? It's fitting that the sneak bobblehead is in here because stealth is absolutely the name of the game for President Dave. I mean, heck, we're taking a ton of damage from just one of them. If we get ganged up on by 2 or more, it's gonna be good night, Irene. Fortunately for us, because it's one of our tagged skills, and I have mostly been pumping points into it, our sneak skill is pretty good. I want to say it's 70 right now, which would love to have silent running, but we can't get that until level 12. Thankfully, we already meet the prerequisites for it, besides the level. And although the story here is relatively small compared to stories in other areas and settlements here in Fallout 3, what happened here in the Yao Guai tunnel is just, when you find that note off the dead Wastelander, it's so creepy. Because of one person's negligence and just straight up refusing to heed the warnings from other people here, an entire group was butchered and turned into Yao Guai Chow. And it's right around this time where I'm really appreciating the fact that we've been funneling energy weapons to Caston for some ammo, whereas I've been using my bottle caps to buy stim packs for a change. It makes doing a challenge run with the Chinese AR being our main weapon a bit deceptive because it is good, if you can keep the thing loaded. I totally want to do a new Vegas run with Tale of Two Wastelands installed because I forgot what kind of weapon mods the devs added to the weapon. And yeah, you see it on screen. If we didn't go get Old Painless, we would have ran out of ammo. Now, I do have some stealth boys. I could have just grabbed the bobblehead, stealthed up, and left. But where's the fun in that? Also, I want experience points from these Yao Guai. Even then, our 32 caliber, well, I could certainly use more of them. 13 bullets left, oh boy. Now, after taking out that Yao Guai, I'm kind of just running around like a chicken with its head cut off, because I'm like, I know that the sneak bobblehead is around this area, just not exactly where. Well, fortunately, I can only stick my head in water so much and bump myself against the cave enough times before I realize, oh wait, there's a little shelf over there, and there's a metal box. Let's go check out the shelf really quick. Not much there. And then we go to the metal box, get that awesome sneak bobblehead, and it's time to get on out of here. Now with our sneak at 80, we'll have a bit of an easier time getting out of here. There is a Yao Guai that spawns once you're done here, basically to cut you off as you're trying to get out of here. And as we make our way out, I'm thinking back to, in real life, I had been to Seneca Caverns in West Virginia before. Absolutely beautiful. Makes me glad that experience was nothing like this. And true to form, there's that Yao Guai waiting for us. And now, something kind of funny happens here. It starts off wrecking our face pretty good, but I think it got caught on something because as we're circling around, it's just kind of standing there, and I'm like, okay. Nothing like free target practice, although we don't have a whole lot of ammo left. And with just 5.32 caliber rounds remaining, we clear out the Yaogwai from the Yaogwai tunnels, have our sneak bobblehead, that's 2 out of 3, and we can beeline on out of here. The last bobblehead we need to obtain is the explosives bobblehead, which doesn't do much for us, but we are required to get it, and we haven't been up this way since the NCR Trooper run, one of my favorite runs on this channel. If you got time, definitely go check it out. It's a little under 45 minutes, I think. But yeah, it's important to remember that the bobblehead is through what's essentially the back door to this place. Yeah, I know it's not a real back door, it's a little tunnel, but you know what I mean. Now, before President Dave rendezvous with James, let's take a little stop back to our Megaton player housing, the best housing that the President can get here in Megaton, by the way. Yeah, you can tell I had quite a bit of fun here. And honestly, most of these, like the Science Bobblehead, the Repair Bobblehead, and the Charisma Bobblehead, they're very easy to get, and it only helps us out, so it's always worth sidetracking and taking a bit of time to make sure that we have them. Okay, so President Dave rendezvous with James and the Project Purity scientists, what's left of them anyway. And then turns out that the Enclave is a serious threat to the President's power, and we can't have that. We sneak attack what I think is the Enclave goon's weapon, so we're going to switch on over to the Chinese AR so that we can fight him head-on close up. Doesn't take too many shots to take down the first goon, and because we have strong back and we can carry a lot of stuff, we can go take some power armor to Caston, and once we're able to get to Fort Independence, concerns of ammo will be a thing of the past for the remainder of the run, but we do have to get there first. We have to battle some Enclave goons, we have to battle some Pharaoh ghouls. Now, with James dead and it being left up to Dave in order to realize the dream of Project Purity, man, that's going to be great when it comes time for the next election, because right at the start of his new term, the idea of having pure, clean water for everybody in the Wasteland, that's going to be hard for someone like Rosie or Bob the Top. Now, one great thing about this trip through Taft Tunnels is because Garza and one of the other scientists, Anna Holt, got chew-toyed by super mutants. We don't have to stop and deal with the whole give Garza 5 stim packs thing. Also, it's interesting because Anna Holt died, and Anna Holt is the reason why the Enclave intercepts Project Purity at Jefferson Memorial. You find that out at Raven Rock, I think. But she died outside, so does that mean that she contacted the Enclave way earlier? Maybe before she left the laboratory at Rivet City with Dr. Lee and the others? Anyway, speaking of the Enclave, we're about to have the mother of all shootouts with 2 goons above us. Now, my original plan after powering up through the use of chems was to snipe them with Old Painless, but turns out that wasn't the best idea. We weren't doing too much damage to them. I was hitting the railings and the bottoms. My aim wasn't too great. And round 1 of our little skirmish almost ended with us dying. Like, look how low our health got here. So it's right around here. I'm like, okay, gonna heal up, and then we're gonna switch to the Chinese AR, and then we're gonna take these guys down. As soon as we get back up the stairs, we 180, basically, take out one of the goons super quick. And after a quick reload, the second Enclave goon does not last for much longer. And as we make our way to Lamplight, we've already saved the kids from Paradise Falls, so McCready just lets us in. I'm thinking we're gonna hack the terminal to skip Murder Pass, because President Dave has learned a bit about science now at 50, the bare minimum you need to hack that terminal. And hey, look at that, another stealth. We've been getting a lot of those this run. And even better, we're about to hit level 12, and at level 12, as long as you have 50 in sneak and 6 in agility, you can get silent running. And Fallout 3 boosts your sneak by an additional 10, which I also forgot about. Once we get down to it, I read the text and I'm like, oh wait, if it gives me 10 to sneak, I'm gonna backtrack a little bit, and then redistribute our skill points a little bit more elsewhere. Now, before advancing, we are going to backtrack to what is the last room of Murder Pass, because there's some useful loot there, which does include another Stealth Boy, and we're gonna disarm that pressure plate this time. Stealth Boy, Nuka-Cola Quantum, a lot of goodies in here. Oh, and do you see our ammo count for our 556? Yeah, Caston really liked that Enclave Power Armor Mark II. You know, it's good that Dave has been taking energy weapons to protect our Caston, really engaging in healthy commerce. We call that economy boosting for his soon-to-be United Capital Wasteland. Now, our ammo might be, well, is ridiculously high. Our weapons conditioning is not so much. Fortunately for us, there are some Super Mutant Masters, well, there should be. And the ones in here tend to use Chinese ARs, which we can use to repair ours. We take out the first 3 super mutants in record time, so onward to the next area. What I'm going to do, which I should have done before, is finally hotkey the Chinese AR and Old Painless just to make things a little bit easier for me. And if you are new here, just know that in runs like this when we play as characters who canonically don't have a Pip-Boy, I can't really do anything about it from an inventory standpoint since it's basically our knapsack. But this stipulation that was recommended to me by a fan has gotten me to start hotkeying other stuff. You know, basically me getting a little bit better at the game. A little. And gotta say too, Old Painless and the Chinese AR have a pretty swift little tag team synergy where we can pot-shot super mutants, bring them to us, switch to our AR, and then mow them down before they have the chance to do anything. And with our Excelsior sneak ability, along with silent running, so glad to have that finally, we'll maintain the element of surprise as we attack this super mutant brute. I'm a little confused because, like, super mutant masters should be appearing at our level, but we haven't fought any yet. That's alright, I'm just concerned about the conditioning of our Chinese AR. After looting the adjacent room and investigating and resting for an hour in the center, which is kind of hilarious, we're gonna snipe the super mutant brute coming up and bring him down to us. Funny enough, he doesn't detect us despite the fact that our gun is fairly loud. After luring him down the corridor, we backpedal a bit, go downstairs, and once we're able to regain the elements of surprise, switch to the Chinese AR and then mow him down. Once we're all said and done with that, we're gonna have to think about how we go forward, and, well, we have a ton of stealth boys here, so it's time for us to just bypass a good chunk of Vault 87 here. I'll give you an exact count here in a second. We have 8 of them in our inventory, so yeah, let's pop one. I mean, they are there for a reason. Now, as we make our way to the fire alarm, we do have to activate a second one, which is whatever. It's not like we have a shortage of these things. We go inside, I activate it, and this time I do not bump into the second super mutant brute in that room. So we're able to make our way down to Fox. A centaur is inexplicably heading in Fox's direction. As another showing of his immense generosity and compassion, President Dave frees the super mutant Fox, and together they go get the Gek, only for them to get separated and the former captured by the Enclave. Now, as President Eden frees us from our shackles, we're gonna pop some buff out. That way we have the strength check to talk down... yes, talk down the Enclave officer. Well, I think this is a good sign, I don't know about you, because this tells President Dave that the President of the Enclave, the biggest threat to Dave's vision of a united Capital Wasteland under the Republic of Dave, would never have such weak, cowardly soldiers at his disposal. And I mean, hey, there's another sign. Colonel Autumn has defied his president after being explicitly told that President Dave had free access and roam of the facility. Speaking of the good colonel, we're gonna hit up his personal quarters and help ourselves to everything that's on display here, including that energy weapons bobblehead, which we don't need, but it's the only time throughout the course of the game that you can obtain it. And not only that, we're going to help ourselves to the good Colonel's footlocker to obtain a vital piece of information. Top secret, classified, no doubt. The Zack's self-destruct holotape. The President has exactly what he needs to topple this menace and bring down the Enclave from the top down. And as he listens to this classified information, it really gives the President some serious insight on what's going on here. This is an example of how not to run a government. And as if that's not enough, when President Dave and President Eden come face to face, the former is, well, surprised and kind of disappointed because he's like, wait, the Enclave is run by a computer? That doesn't make any sense. Eden tries to tell him that he can't leave. Dave reads off the priority override authorization code and takes the FEV virus on his way out. Now, as Dave has been continuing James's work to make Project Purity a reality, this quest has netted him a strange bedfellow in the form of the Lion's Pride Brotherhood of Steel chapter. And, oh, hey, another stealth boy, awesome. And unfortunately, as much as I would love to loot all of this power armor, even with Strongback, we can only carry so much. But we can repair and consolidate our inventory so that once we get out of here, we make one last trip back to Caston. No doubt the greatest ally to the Republic. They have a nice, simple understanding. Dave gives them energy weapons, and they supply Dave with all sorts of supplies. It's a true effective barter system without the need for bottle caps. And I mean, you see it on screen, even Fox considers the President a hero and is honored to travel with him, so Let's skip over Liberty Prime and head straight to Jefferson Memorial for round 2. Now, this was awesome. Check this out. So, we're going to go ahead and buff up like usual. Still got tons of buff out, tons of medics, tons of Yaoguai meat, a little bit of Psycho left over, and look at that. One shot, down goes the first Enclave goon, and we're still hidden. One of the soldiers comes out to investigate Fox's war cry, only to get a face full of old Painless. As Sarah Lyons and Fox deal with the one Enclave goon over there, we have one coming up who just kind of falls to pieces. That was the quickest fight here inside of Jefferson Memorial we've had up to this point, but we still have to fight Colonel Autumn and his 2 bodyguards. Dave says no to that commie scum, takes out Colonel Autumn real fast, only 2 shots of old Painless. Yep, quickest fight here at Jefferson Memorial we've had up to date from start to finish. That was cool. But Colonel Autumn is not quite done yet. Watch this, coming up. I don't know how that happened with his body just flopping all over the place, but I mean, what a note to end off on, man. That was amazing. I really hope you guys had fun with that run. Had some high-quality Bethesda moments, explored a new area, the Yaoguai tunnels. And when it comes to running as Dave, the voiceover was just so much fun to do. And I mean, they're all fun, but this one it felt just right, you know? Be sure to stay tuned for the little end cap where we have a little credits roll that shows some of the next runs we'll be doing. That includes Fallout New Vegas as a heavy trooper, that's next, Fallout 3 as 3-Dog, Fallout New Vegas as Cooper Howard, and we will be starting Fallout 3 Faction Warriors, which you guys voted for between the Capital Wasteland and the Mojave Wasteland. That's coming out soon as well. And I have a surprise run in 9 days, which is when my birthday is. I should almost definitely have the heavy trooper up before then, so I'll see you guys back out west. Thanks again for watching. Take it easy.